Cooper Glover 1972 here. I think this has been a few weeks now since I've done a video. No, wait a minute. Maybe it was a week. Maybe I did a stream a week or so ago. I'm not. I'd have to look on my videos, but so I've a while back I was doing my movies I've seen during the week every week, but I sort of let go on that and get a little didn't keep up with the discipline of that, and if you're wondering why I haven't been posting videos, or why I haven't been leaving comments on people's videos, or the reason is because of this pandemic, I've had to cancel some of my streaming services, and one of them is Criterion Channel, and I get it till June 8th, and I've been watching it. I've been watching tons of movies off of it and the special features, which is what I like about the channel a lot. And when I don't have it anymore, I'm going to watch all. I've got a lot of Criterion discs that I haven't watched yet, so I think once we're back at work at the library, when the library reopens to the public, I don't know if I'll go back to right away subscribing to the Criterion Channel. I might wait until I've watched all my Criterion discs, maybe even my other non-Criterion discs. But anyway, so that's why I haven't been leaving comments on people's videos. If you're wondering why, that's what the case is basically. Anyways, so I got 13 films here. They're a little out of order. I'm going to try to organize them by director, sort of. So I got 13 films. First off is a movie called... let me just say before I go any further, my apologies to people that I talk to on YouTube. I've left a few comments for a few people here and there on YouTube and Facebook, but if you're wondering why I haven't left anything comments, it's not because I don't want to watch your videos. It's just I've been watching Criterion Channel. I've been playing around with my guitar a little. I've been watching a few streams here and there, but Criterion Channel has been taking up a lot of my time, and I want to watch as much as I can. So that's what's been taking the time. And there's something. And the other thing is, if you find anything boring during this video, because I think it's going to be a long video, if you want to jump ahead, feel free to. There's 13 movies I'm going to review, and you'll see a picture of each movie over here, next over my shoulder, and then you'll see a rating. You'll see the movie with my rating on it after that, and then after that the video will be over with. So this, for all I know, this might be an hour-long video. So let's get to it. So the first movie, I think Criterion has a box set of Rossellini, Roberto Rossellini directed films with Ingrid Bergman in them. I think there's 3 films. I watched one of those films that's in that box set. I think it's a box set. It's called Journey to Italy. It came out in 1954. And it stars Ingrid Bergman, who was, I think at the time, by the way, as I'm talking about these films and what they're about and what they are covering or involve, or with the time period that it was shot during, or the stars, if you know any information that could fill in the gaps of what I'm talking about, or if I'm saying something that's not factually correct, just put your comments down there, or just fill in the gaps, if I don't have enough information. But she stars, she co-stars with this guy named George Sanders, who I guess was an English actor, and I think I've seen the guy somewhere. Maybe it's Hitchcock. I don't know where I've seen him. The film came out in 1954, Journey to Italy. Um, the plot is basically this married couple. Um, I don't know which side of the family it is. They're going to Italy because his uncle or her uncle um, has died, and they want to settle the estate, and they want to sell the house off, and they're really not into each other. And the husband is like flirting with a much younger woman than Ingrid Bergman, because Ingrid Bergman, and this is like the late 40s or early 50s, 54, because she's a little older now, because when Casablanca was made, that was 1943, I believe. So she's a little older in this one. And her husband is sort of flirting with younger women, and she's just going around visiting things like volcanic ruins, of Pompeii, and it was kind of boring, I thought. But I wanted to see it because I have the Rossellini War trilogy that I want to watch, the box set, and I thought it'd be interesting I think I've heard that Ingrid Bergman is very interesting. Her career gets very interesting as she ages, because I have another film with her in it in my collection called I think it's called Autumn Sonata, where Leaud plays her daughter. That's directed by Ingmar Bergman, no relation to Ingrid Bergman. They just happen to have the same last name. And that one was made in the 70s. I haven't watched it yet, but I have it in my collection. But this film I found kind of lame. But it was a little better than a little better than good, but not great. So I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. The next film is a film called Death Race 2000. It came out in 1975. It's directed by a guy called Paul Bartel. I don't know who he is. But it's produced by Roger Corman. And Roger Corman, I believe, when he had people direct his films, he had this rule that they had to shoot on low budgets and they couldn't go above a certain amount of money, and they had to think outside the box, I guess, and work within the constraints of the budget. So it's kind of a cheesy movie, and you can sort of see that, and yet it's pretty enjoyable, I guess. It's kind of a little bit, the cheesiness of it sort of makes it a little bit doesn't make it entirely enjoyable to me. It's not like well crafted in that sense, or like if they could put in a little extra more money, maybe it would have made it look a little better. That's my opinion. It has David Carradine, who would later play Bill in Kill Bill, and he plays Frankenstein. That's the name of his character, and he's supposed to have been mutilated in previous races. It takes place during the future, and these cars race from New York to Los Angeles, and they've really souped up cars, that have like Frankenstein's car, I think, has like teeth on it, fake teeth, and there's another team that has Nazi swastika helmets, and Sylvester Stallone's in it. He sort of plays like a mafia type guy, driver. He wears a suit driving, and the thing is, you have to kill people to get points as they're driving from New York to Los Angeles. And like one shot, you can see a matte painting shot of the stadium where the cars are about to start off and go on the race, and you can see the background, and you can tell it's fake. It came out in 75. Interesting note about this is Tak Fujimoto did the cinematography. And I'm just aware of that because he was the cinematographer for Silence of the Lambs. When Jonathan Demme was alive, he used to do Rarely Seen Cinema at the Jacob Burns Film Center in Pleasantville, New York, and I used to attend that with a friend of mine. And then there was Saturday Saddle Up Saturdays that he had on Saturdays too, which I went to some of those. But anyways, the guy he hired for a cinematographer for Silence of the Lambs was Tak Fujimoto. So, but this film was breathable. It was somewhat entertaining and just barely entertaining. I think I think the budget is what makes it not quite that fantastic in my opinion. It just doesn't work for me. But it's breathable. It's decent. So I'll give it 3 stars. Next up, we have a film directed and written by Akira Kurosawa. This was his last film before he died. It came out in 1993. I don't remember when Kurosawa died. It might have been 94. The film is called Madadayo, which I think in Japanese means not yet. I thought the film was kind of interesting. You know, when Kurosawa directed this, he was in his 80s. I don't think he reached his 90s before he died. Maybe it was 88 when he died. It starts off with this man retiring, this teacher retiring, professor, whatever, and it's at the eve of World War II. At the eve, would that be the right? During World War II, and his house gets bombed, and he lives in a smaller, very very small house, like a less than a trailer sized house, a sliding door house, but very small. And then he gets a bigger house, and he goes to these parties of celebrating his teaching years, and all the students appear at these parties, and he repeats the words Madadayo a lot, like I'm not ready to die yet, kind of a theme, and you see these young kids repeat that theme when they're playing hide and seek. I'm not ready yet, or something like that. So it's like a reference to death. Like he says when he's in his small house during the earlier part of the film, that he says a man really doesn't need a lot of stuff. It just gets in the way and makes his life more complicated. It's just like that Japanese Zen kind of philosophy. It was kind of interesting from that standpoint. But I think he's made much better pictures, much more entertaining pictures, and darker pictures, because his pictures got much more pessimistic as he got older, starting with probably, I haven't seen Dursa Uzala, I'm not sure on that one, but starting with like films like Kagemusha and Ron. Akira Kurosawa's dreams, maybe I should rethink that. That has sort of a more optimistic bent to it, but it did have some pessimistic. It's like an anthology of stories in that particular movie, Dreams, different films. And I think some of the Dream films were kind of pessimistic. So, and after he made Dreams, I thought that was the second to last film, but then I remembered he made Rhapsody in August, which is about the Hiroshima atomic bomb, and Richard Gere made an appearance in that. I haven't seen that in a while, but anyways, I'm going to give Madadayo 4 stars out of 5. The next one is another Japanese film. It's directed by a director named Juzo Itmai. It came out in 1985, and it's called Tampopo, which means dandelion, which is the name of this woman main character in the film. She runs a ramen restaurant, and one night it's raining, and this truck driver and his passenger arrive at a ramen shop in the rain, and this truck driver coaches her into making good ramen. It was kind of interesting how the ramen was made. That's kind of interesting, how the details and the thoroughness of how to make it, and how other people made it. So I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. It's good. It's a little better than good, but not excellent in my opinion. That came out in 1985. And of course, with the Criterion Channel, some of the films that they give you other films that are not in the Criterion Collection discs that you get just exclusive to the channel, plus other special features. But they have special features with some of the Criterion Collection discs that are on their channel. Not all of them, but some of them. And this one had those special features. And one of the special features, like they have in some of their collection discs, is other films that the director made, like student films or short films they made before they made their features or what have you. And he made this film in 1962 called Rubber Band Pistol. I don't know if I get all these student films all the time or understand them because they're kind of abstract or artsy or artistic. This particular movie, what was happening in this film? I'm trying to refresh my memory. It's just these kids taking rubber bands and hitting targets, and I can't remember. I'm sorry, I just can't remember. 3 stars. It's breathable. It's kind of entertaining. Not worth it. Just if you watch it, you watch it. If you don't, you don't. No big loss. Okay, next film is another Japanese movie. I typed the wrong word in. It's 47 Ronin. I said 47 Robin, but it's Ronin, Ronin. But you'll see that up here or here. We went here where I put the poster. So, anyways, this was directed by Kenji Mizoguchi. Came out in 1941. I was sort of debating how to rate this film because when I thought, I thought originally as I was watching it, it was a film that was made like in the late 40s or early or somewhere in the 1950s, and it turns out it was made in 1941, and that's important because at that time period, Japan was occupying a lot of Asia. It occupied Manchuria and the Philippines and Burma, Myanmar. It occupied a lot of Asia. And like there's one part, it's a long movie. It's like almost 4 hours long, and there's 2 parts to it. And 47 Ronin is an old tale in Japanese folklore. I don't know if it's a true tale or not. If you do know if it's true or not, just put it down there. But anyways, these 47 Ronin, it's about a master. I guess they're samurai. Ronin are masterless samurai, and their daimyo, their lord, whose lord is the shogun, the military dictator of Japan. The emperor is basically the ruler in name only, and their lord or daimyo, or whatever however you want to put it, their daimyo, he's been killed, I think, by another tribe or clan or daimyo or something. They want to avenge his death, so I think the shogun tries to acquire their property, and they fight. I think they fight him off, but then in the end they decide to commit seppuku. Wait, harikiri, not seppuku. Those are 2 types of Japanese suicide. Harikiri in Japanese suicide is where you you have 2 swords in samurais. With samurais, you have a companion sword and a long sword. The companion sword, I believe, if I remember my history right about Japan, you slit your belly open with your companion sword, like your intestines fall out when you commit harikiri, and then another samurai, a second, as they're called, I guess, and he cuts your head off after that or at the same time or something like that. So that's, but that's what they did. The 47 Ronin, they committed. I mean, that's sort of the cat out of the bag, but that's the story. Their loyalty is what the deal is with the film. But you have to think about, it's World War II, right? So it's propaganda. I mean, everywhere in the world around World War II time, Germany, even the U.S., you're not going to have a film that's pro, like if it's a German movie promoting the U.S. or the U.S. promoting Germany. Not that we would promote Germany, but it's very, all of the countries that are fighting each other are going to be very propaganda-like. They're going to say, this country's bad. There's nobody good in it. Which is, it's, like not all the Germans were against the Jews. Like some of them like some of the the family that hid Anne Frank and some other people in their attic, in Holland, and they didn't tell the Nazis that they were there, that sort of a thing, So it wasn't, but these propaganda films were saying like, oh, everybody's against this and we're all for this and all that kind of stuff. So with this 47 Ronin film, I think you can sort of see that because like, I think it's the second part of the film. In the starting credits, it says "serving for a greater Asia" or something like that, and that's talking about Japan being occupying all of Asia. I think that's why Japan might be highly populated today, because everybody people like Toshiro Mifune, frequent collaborator with Akira Kurosawa back in the 50s, 60s. He was born in Manchuria. He's Japanese, but he was born in Manchuria, China. So I think when World War II ended, like Japanese people that were in places like Manchuria went back to Japan. And because of that, maybe it was crowded before, but maybe it got more densely populated because of that. But anyway, so this 47 Ronin film, I think there's like propaganda with it, like saying like serve Japan and don't think of yourself, think of the greater good, the country, and sacrifice yourself for the good of Japan. Follow the emperor, follow the shogun, that kind of a thing. So. But it wasn't a bad movie, so I'm going to give it 4 stars. Okay, so now let's see. Where do we go here? Okay. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to go with Godard next. I watched a bunch of Godard movies on Criterion Channel. First one I'll talk about is Hail Mary. I think it's supposed to be one of the most controversial films of all time. It came out in 1985, and when I saw it was on Criterion Channel, I've wanted to see that film for ages. It's about a woman in modern day France, which is 85, and she is a virgin birth, and the Pope has denounced this movie. Of course, the Pope at that time was, I think, Pope John Paul II. Maybe it's controversial because like let's just conjecture if a woman had a virgin birth today, maybe it'll make the Catholic Church people that criticize it make it seem like it's not safe to safe to criticize because it would undermine the mission of the church, according to critics of it, because they would see it as a place where critics of the church would see it as a place that just the Catholic Church has made lots of money, acquired a lot of real estate around the world, and if a virgin birth happened, it would make them look bad. If you follow my drift, I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but it would like dirty the image of the Catholic Church. It would be because they have all this property and everything, and it would make them look like hypocrites, something like that, I guess. I think that's what maybe Godard is trying to show. That I'd have to read some criticism on that. I was thinking of reading some criticism on that, before I did this video. If you have any insight as to why this movie is controversial, or maybe some of the theories that might make the Catholic Church look bad in the face of this film, or even if you don't agree with this way of thinking, put your comments down there. I don't want to really get any people mad based on the religious beliefs, but I wanted to watch this film because it's controversial, and I wanted to see a film that would challenge the conventions of what was considered something not to be touched upon, or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, because it's controversial, I don't know if because it's controversial entirely, but because it draws up some interesting questions, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. Okay, so now the next Godard movie is a movie he made in '66. These next two films by Godard were made side by side. They were made back to back with each other. Like Godard was shooting one part of this film and then the other film at the same time. So he was filming them back to back. He didn't do them like one first and then the second after that. He did them in between. So his which one came first here? Let's see. '66 he made this film called the first one released was made in U.S.A. '66, and it stars I don't know how many times Godard's been married. He's very old now, like in his 80s. But it has Karina in it, who was his wife at one point. She's dead now. She died fairly recently, and maybe it was last year. It has Marianne Faithfull. She was a Mick Jagger's girlfriend for a while. In this particular film, she sings a song called "As Tears Go By," which the Rolling Stones would later do a cover of. And Jean-Pierre Leaud, who was the main character in 400 Blows by Truffaut, makes an appearance here and there in the film. But made in the USA, Karina plays a character who's trying to find who murdered her boyfriend or husband. I think it's her boyfriend. And interspersed with this murder plot is this, as Godard does, he's doing commentary on politics and society and all that kind of stuff. And if you watch Godard's films, and I haven't watched everything, I mean, Criterion Channel has a lot of Godard stuff on there. He likes to talk during his films, like put his voice in his films, and like do some narration that might not be linked to the story of the film, but to political matters, or he'll talk about history or whatever. And I think in this particular film he spoke with his full voice, because in the other film he whispers what he talks about. So that's made in USA, and I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was pretty good, pretty enjoyable. And at the same time, he made another film that came out the following year, which I think is the same year that my favorite Godard film, Weekend, came out, which I highly recommend. Which I don't know if Godard, when he made Weekend, I know I'm veering off a little here, but I won't be veering off too long here. But when he made Weekend, I don't know if he wanted to be considered a comedy or like a satire on modern consumer society and Marxism and all that, or if he was making a serious commentary on the state of society in the late '60s, or both. Maybe it's both, but I really love that movie. But anyways, he made this other film called 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her. And the her is relating, part of it's relating to prostitution. I'm not quite sure in the late 60s in France if prostitution was legal. I think it was, and quickly ended at that point, because there's another film by Luis Buñuel, Spanish director, called Belle de Jour, Beauty of the Day, with Catherine Deneuve, and she plays a prostitute that works during the day, and her husband doesn't know that she's a prostitute. I highly recommend Belle de Jour. It's one of my favorite movies. Weekend is too. But anyways, so that one of Godard's other other female interests, I don't know, I didn't write down her name, but he proposed marriage to her, and she plays a prostitute in this film. And he's comparing the prostitution angle to the rest of France, particularly, I guess, Paris, and like building, one of the people in France building buildings around Paris, and other things like consumerism and all kinds of stuff. So, and he's talking about like prostitution would help women afford apartments because their income doesn't equal the amount of money they need to pay the rent for an apartment. So that's basically the gist, I guess. I'm not really doing the movie justice, I think, by saying all this, but anyways, I give it 4.5 stars. And the last one of Godard's that I'm going to talk about for this video is a film called La Petite Soldat, which means the little soldier in French. I'm probably butchering the French, but it came out in 1963. It was his second film, second feature after he had made Breathless. Anna Karina's in it. It's the first film that she starred in of Godard's. I really enjoy this film. It's not as didactic or philosophical as, say, Weekend or, 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her, films like that. And after Weekend, he would he abandoned film for a while, and then later he would come back, but he became very philosophical and political and all that kind of stuff, and his films dramatically changed. But with this Le Petit Soldat, this it's just like a basic plot, of this guy. He's hired. He's told to assassinate somebody, but he doesn't want to, and then he's kidnapped by these terrorists and tortured, and not tortured in the sense that you'd see a new movie today that's rated R kind of tortured. I mean, you do see a little torture, but it's not like torture you'd see in a movie of today, like a big Hollywood film. I can't remember if I said this is 1963. And he also there's some nice quotes in it where he talks about literature and communism, and quotes from people like what's his name, Lenin, and kind of interesting stuff to Vladimir Lenin, the Soviet Union, and all that stuff. I'm not saying I believe in the Soviet Union, but it was just an interesting film, And they're talking about Algerian independence and all that stuff. So the film was banned for a little while. So I give it 4.5 stars because it's pretty entertaining. Let's see, where do we go now from here? The video might end shorter than I thought it might, but it's still going a little long here. But okay, so the last 3, there's 2 by the same director, and then 1 by another director. Let me do this one first because I watched her film before the other woman's 2 films. There's a woman that died, maybe it was last year, Agnes Varda, French director. And I've seen Vagabond, which is really depressing. I've thought maybe I should watch it on Criterion Channel before I lose Criterion Channel, because I don't know if when I resubscribe at some point, if it'll still be there, Vagabond. But if you want to see a really depressing film that I liked at the time I saw it, which might have been the late 80s, early 90s, Vagabond is a good movie, at least as far as I remember. About a teenage runaway. But anyways, she made this film in 1969 called Lines, Love, and then in parentheses, and Lies. I don't know what to think of this film. It's very improvisational. There's two males and one female that basically inhabit most of the film's narrative. The two males were I guess they're creators or they starred in Hair, and the female, a lead, she did something. She's of some kind of significance at that time period. I don't know what. It takes place in L.A., and there's a woman who I believe is a director like Agnes Varda who plays the director surrogate who plays the Agnes Varda character that Agnes Varda is directing in the film. It's basically this group of three, these two guys and a gal, and them talking about certain things, watching the television, seeing Robert Kennedy being shot. What else did they do? Read words from, I think they read off of magazines, which sort of sounds like a Godard kind of convention. I'm trying to remember all of it. At one point, they drain the swimming pool. It takes place in L.A., and they're like approaching it from like an avant-garde kind of film perspective, like if it was made in New York City, but it's made in L.A. At one point, they drain their swimming pool in the back, and one of the men and the woman, the two main characters, they're in the swimming pool doing something, like reciting some drama or something. I don't know. It was kind of interesting. It's kind of a bore a little, I think, and indulgent. I don't know if it really, and you might be surprised that I'm giving it 3.5 stars, but it was entertaining in a way, and they did kind of interesting things. And at the time, it was free love and all that stuff, so they posed nude in part of the film and all that stuff, and 3.5 stars. 1969. Okay, so the last two are by a Russian director. I think she died in the early 80s. Her last films, her husband completed for her. What's great about the Criterion Channel is they supply you with extra behind-the-scenes documentary educational material that fills in the blanks as to why the director directed in such a way, or how they came about directing such a film, or why they directed a film. She made these really good films, two of which are featured on, well, the only two I know of. I think she's done more than two features, but she did one in '66 called Wings, and I guess it's the only one, according to the person talking on the Criterion Channel, that features rather a female protagonist. She fought in World War II. I think it was World War II, as a pilot, and now she's a school principal. And at the start, she expels a student, and she feels bad about it. And one of her other students can't make it to the front of the stage. She might be a drama teacher, for all I know. So she doesn't. It's like a costume, like a Russian doll kind of a costume, where she gets behind it and she fakes being the girl that was supposed to be on stage, and but she's even though she's trying to say things like to one of her students, like, what do you plan to do in the future? And um, you should try harder and think harder and all that kind of stuff. Um, she has doubts in her own mind. She has a daughter, technically a daughter, not a biological daughter. And her daughter wants to marry this guy, and she interviews this guy, and she says, "What have you've been divorced? And do you have any children?" And he says, "No." And she wants people to have like an idea in their minds of what they're going to do with their life, and what they put thought into what they do, and do meaningful things. And yet she has doubts in her mind. And in the end, she something happens to her. I won't tell. It's a really good movie. Wings. Something involving her past comes into the film. So it sort of has in a way, an optimistic ending, sort of. I won't spoil it. It's really good. 4.5 stars. And the last one is a film called The Ascent. Oh, and did I say what year that came out in? 66. Oh, I think I did. This next film she made, her last film she finished by herself, was a film called The Ascent, 77. Her name's Larisa Shepitko. I don't know if I said that. She was the only woman in her class at, I don't know the name. I think it's a film university. I think it's in Moscow. I think Dashvenko was one of her mentors, and the man she married was a filmmaker as well. And she was the only female in her class. I can't remember if I just said that, but so The Ascent is set during World War II, and it concerns two soldiers, and they're trying to get some food for the rest of their group. And they get caught by German soldiers, and one of them gets tortured, and the other guy agrees to go along with the Germans and inform on everybody, or inform on the other guy, and tell the Germans where the Russians are located and everything. And his fellow soldier says, "You sold out. You have no integrity. You're not thinking of the greater good," and all that stuff. You can sort of see a propaganda element to it, but you can also see that she's trying to transcend that with, like, it sort of has a Christian kind of a element to it. Because, like, with communism, I guess it's an atheistic political ideology. But, in Russia, they sort of they kept the St. Basil's Church erect. They didn't destroy it, when the Soviet Union came into existence. So I don't know if they really abolished religion in Russia when the Soviet Union came into being. But anyways, so at the end of the film, the main character who's asked if he wants to be like a police agent or something for the Germans, work for the Germans, he pleads, "Please let me work for you guys. I don't want to die." And they say, "Okay, that's fine." And I think the guy that decides that he can live, I think that guy is in the film Stalker by Tarkovsky. And I'd have to check the internet, Google it, but I'm almost positive that's the same guy. He's not the stalker. He's either the writer or the scientist or whatever. But that's the same guy, I think. And but anyways, at the end of the film, they're going to hang these Russians, a young girl, a woman that's a mother, and she's left behind her kids, and her kids are very young, and no one's there to take care of them. And then his friend, and it's like a Christian allegory that, he's really like a Christ-like figure. And you can see how the way he's lit, and of course his beard and everything, that's the Christian sort of setting, and then this older man as well. But oh, really, really great movie, and you can. It's 4.5 stars for me out of 5. One Golden Bear at the '77 Berlin Film Festival. So that finishes it. That's all the films I watched. I know it went. This video went on long. It's 45 minutes. Of course, it'll be a little longer with the intro and the outro. But that's what I watched. I was going to wait until I watch this film. I think it's called Elephant Standing Still, which is like a 4-hour movie. But I thought maybe that's too much. You know, it's already 45 minutes here on this video. And I thought maybe that's too much, you know, to talk about. And I should wait until another video to do that. So I'm basically right now, Criterion Channel is taking up my time. Maybe, you know, a little bit of other things, you know, like playing around with my guitar, visiting a few streams. Also, one last thing I'll mention, now that I think of it. Daisuke Beppu, I'll put his name up here. He's having a stream on the Living Daylights, a James Bond movie, with where Timothy Dalton made his first appearance as James Bond. And he's going to have that on it's coming Saturday at 11 p.m. Tokyo time and 10 a.m. Eastern time, which I'm planning on being on. I got to watch it. So not being on, but, you know, being in the chat. And hopefully I'll see some of you guys there, whatever you think. Anyways, I won't go on. I think I've been on long enough now. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any comments that can fill in the blanks of what I've been talking about, go ahead, you know, put some comments down there. And thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Bye for now.